Time for Hawk Talk this week. Ryan Kasowski, our Midco Sports analyst for UND football here joining us. And Ryan, North Dakota coming off a bye, 2 straight wins before that, a lot of momentum carrying into this game. I think the bye, I don't know, sometimes they come at inopportune times. I think this came at a good one for UND.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You know, you're exactly right. You come off, you got some momentum, you got some confidence, and it's the perfect time to get your guys healthy. You know, take that time to regroup, make sure everybody is ready to go for this week. And then obviously you look at the team coming in. It's always good to have a little extra time to prepare for South Dakota State as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is SDSU coming off 2 rivalry games, South Dakota in Brookings, and then having to go to North Dakota State, physical game, coming back from 14 down to win that game on the road, and now having to come back to North Dakota for a second straight week. It's a team that is battle-tested and proven they can win in tough situations, but this will be an extra special challenge, I think, even for the Jackrabbits.
I think so. I think that's a great point. And coming into this week, I think for South Dakota State, it's how do you make sure that you're just as amped up this week as you were last week and the week before? And you know, obviously that Dakota Marker game is a big game for everybody involved, and I'm sure that's Coach Stig's message this week is we've got to be just as prepared, just as excited to go out and play against a good North Dakota team as we were last week against NDSU.
Yeah, and the Jackrabbits consensus #1 in both polls this week, and it is a big opportunity for UND. Bubba Schweigert, a couple of the players talked about that in the press conference this week. We know what's in front of us. We know the opportunity we have. But it's also important not to get too high or too low either, recognizing the situation.
Yeah, and it is one game, you know, and it is, you've got to go out and just make sure that if you're North Dakota, you've played the way you have the past couple weeks, assignment sharp. I think for Tommy Schuster too, the way he's been able to create plays and make plays, he has to be able to do that on Saturday. That's been the difference in the games they've won compared to the games they've lost. So I think that's going to be a big point too, is just going out, making sure you are playing your kind of game, not getting hyped up in the ratings or rankings or whoever's coming in. Just go out and play North Dakota football.
One area where South Dakota State has been its best, you'd have to say, is on the offensive and defensive lines. They're very physical, really good defensive line, only allowing about 70 yards a game on the ground. Offensive line showed the ability to run the football in the second half this past weekend. That's where North Dakota is going to have to match the physicality for 60 minutes. That's a huge key, isn't it?
It is. That's the game. You're exactly right. You've got to be able to win that battle up front, and you are that group for South Dakota State is extremely talented. They're battle tested. You know, that's a group that's played a lot of football for that team, and that's going to be kind of the area to watch on Saturday is who can, you know, control that line of scrimmage and dominate the line of scrimmage.
North Dakota got after that fast start against Youngstown State 2 weeks ago. And yes, the Penguins were able to come back and tie the game, but getting off to a fast start, the importance of that in a game like this with what you're hoping is a huge home crowd behind you, to try to get those guys pinning their ears back too, especially on the defensive side, and playing a step faster.
And that's UND's mantra. That's how they have to play. They can't play from behind. They're just not designed that way. They're not built that way. This has got to be a close game. And I think you're right that South Dakota State is the team that the closer you keep this, the more they're going to have to press. You know, they're the one that's the #1 team. They're the team coming in that you know, has to really make sure that everyone continues to think that they're #1. So yeah, I think all the pressure's on South Dakota State, and UND just has to go out and play their game.
Yeah, cut it loose and try to have some fun out there. Ben McNaboe saying this week, you know, one area too that we focus on a lot as a defense that has not translated here the last few weeks is forcing turnovers. No forced turnovers since the NAU game way back in the middle of September. You try not to harp on that too much because you just want to play good football and still tackle and wrap up at the same time. Turnover would be huge if you can force one in this game.
It certainly would, and I know that's something they work every single week, and sometimes it just doesn't happen, and it really hasn't so far, but you're exactly right. That could be the change in a game that North Dakota needs, or on the other side, South Dakota State. You know, you've just got to make sure that you're holding on to that football, but yeah, turnovers could be a major difference in this football game.
Well, it should be a fun one. We're looking forward to having it for you on Midco Sports at 3 o'clock Central Time this coming Saturday. Thanks again for stopping by, Ryan.
You bet.